On June 26, 2006, I was a broken and isolated man who no longer wanted to live, who couldn't imagine life drunk or sober. When I look back at that day, I see myself in jagged fragments, pieces of me scattered around the floor. I knew my addiction was bigger than me, and I knew there had to be something in this universe bigger than it. Running is a big piece of my recovery. And here's something I think is interesting. Some people will say, oh, you're exchanging addictions. You know, you gave up booze, you picked up running. Running can't be the answer to my recovery because I'm going to get injured. I'm going to get hurt. The running might not always be there, but it is good therapy. There are many people like me there. So I have many friends in recovery. I have many friends in long running. We talked about the question, what's wrong with you that you would run 100 miles? A lot of people who deal with mental illness, with addiction, eating disorder, those kind of things, drawn to that long running game, probably because it takes an obsessive type of mind, probably because you really have to get to know yourself.
If you're running 100 miles, I'm imagining there's a lot of misery involved with some of that.
It's a different kind of misery. You really need to consider the difference between discomfort and pain if you want to get through it, I think. Because discomfort is something that's very acceptable and temporary. When you find the body's limits is where the misery piece is. And usually quite often that can be weather related. I can think of races where I say miles 30 through 70 were really painful, but you just keep pushing through them and moving through them. And you learn to kind of wrap your head around the pain and embrace it as, like I said, as discomfort instead of as pain. I think that's where you're going to see the real stories play out, is the people who are trying to get, they pull into the pit stop trying to get fixed enough to keep moving. I do like that feeling of being exhausted. And I do think that sometimes it takes a good several hours before you're really feeling good running.
How long do you think you can do this? Not how long in miles, but how many more years? Yeah.
It's interesting because people seem to like the longer stuff the older they get.
So what prompted the writing of the book?
It's funny because you usually don't get good ideas when you're running 100-mile races. But when I was running the race in 2014, and I was just, as you're running, you talk to people, of course, other people running it, and I'm talking to a guy who, the week before, he was working with natives in the Amazon, or somebody else who's running it because of a dead friend or whatever, and I just thought everybody running this thing is a novel unto itself. And I thought I like to document things. That's just something I like to do. I like to photograph, I like to write things down. And so I said, I need to tell some of these stories. But it was writing about things that I loved. And a lot of times it was traveling to places and running with people, getting to know them. And if we're going to get to know each other, let's go for a run and talk while we're running.